Good evening and welcome to the July 23rd, 2024 Board of Supervisors work session. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone listed on the roll call is present. Announcements. Township meetings are recorded for the purpose of preparing the minutes, and the recording is destroyed after the minutes are approved. The meeting will be posted online on the Township YouTube channel. The link can be found on the Board of Supervisors page on the Township website. It is requested that all persons wishing to speak before the board shall state their name, address, and the subject matter upon which they wish to speak for the record. In the interest of facilitating the business of the board, all persons addressing the board shall be limited to 3 minutes each, unless such time is extended by the chair for good cause. Individuals are requested to remain in their seats and respect when other persons are speaking. The Board of Supervisors will provide a reasonable opportunity for citizens to comment on any non-agenda items after all agenda items have been addressed, but prior to the adjournment of the public meeting. And we had an executive session immediately prior to this meeting to receive legal guidance and legal information. And one of those was about the conditional use hearing we just had recently. All right, first item of business, sewer inflow and infiltration presentation. Bob, I think that's you. Just make sure that you speak into the microphone.
Oh, that'll work? Yeah, thanks. Hello again, is this on? Yep. Again, my name is Robert Preston. I'm the sewer engineer here at Lower Frederick Township. And I'd like to speak on the annual I&I program that we're discussing and thinking about. I&I stands for inflow and infiltration. Jason, next slide. It's very simple. I have a simple diagram here. There's a distinct difference between both. Inflow actually comes within a pipe, or it can come in the top of a manhole. Infiltration has to perk down through the earth to come in a crack or a non-specified spot. But either way it does it, it is clean water that should not be there. So the next slide here is showing you a different depiction of the manhole. Inflow basically is surface water that comes into the system. Can come down through the manhole lid itself, a crack that is above grade, but it all starts as a runoff we're familiar with. Infiltration, as I said percolates down through the earth and comes in the side of a manhole, either at a joint or a crack or some sort of imperfection. If you have a high water table, sometimes it'll blow right through the gasket on the pipe itself. Again, we have another picture, and this is just generally speaking. As you see, the white lettering, if you can read it, is common ways surface water will enter the system through the lateral cap outside and front. Crack, tree roots like to get in joints and make blockages and allow water to get in. What we're looking at trying to stop at this point, or through the manholes and cracks in the main pipe. Next one. Excessive I&I increases flow and reduces the availability of capacity. Basically, DEP has stated that anything that gets in our pipes, we have to treat. So it equates into higher and increased treatment costs. The more water that we treat, the more chemical we use and more energy we use. Annual I program steps. We systematically divide the existing collection and sanitary system. make it to smaller bites that we can actually identify problems and fix. Then we utilize the operator's experience. Tommy has gone out here and knows the system extremely well, and areas that he has suspected areas that are excessive I&I is coming within. Once we get that information, we have a systematic approach, and which we'll go over this later on in the presentation. And once we telegraph or televise it and be able to see what kind of I&I it is, then we can systematically prioritize and repair joints, cracked pipes, maybe manholes that are leaking, but we can do it when we have the cash, when things are available. Next one. Overall I&I approach. Sorry, my eyes are a little bad there. Ordinances, we start with a review of the ordinances and identify shortcomings and improvements in the ordinances. Consider private lateral inspection, and you'll see why that comes later on. Actually right here, according to DEP, private laterals compose half the total length of your typical gravity system. Potential 6 miles in your case of private laterals in Lower Frederick. So half your system we can't even touch because it's private. So that's one of the important reasons we want to get in there at time of sale or however we decide to view it, tape it, and then have it fixed. Reviewing his, okay, that's fine. We can move on. Nope. Just reviewing historical data. Inspection and repairs. We don't need the first one at this point in time, portable meters. If we do get high inflow in certain areas, there are portable meters available that we could see what kind of flow comes in and how our system is reacting to Hurricane Ida, which seems to be a bad word. We all know why. Closed circuit television on the lines allow us to see what's wrong so we can formulate how to repair it. Review reports, that's what the I&I contractor is going to provide to us to look at, where they see weak joints, cracks, roots, whatever. Then the most important part of this is address repairs permitted by budget. We don't want to just identify them, we want to start getting rid of them and fixing them. Maintain a detailed list and prioritize all the defects that we find so that we can start chipping away them as successive years happen. Completing identifying repairs is the key to the successful annual program. Next. This is an area or a shot of your entire collection system. Tommy and Jason and I have sat down and kind of divided it into 3 distinct areas, depending on where they enter, and they're all a basin of each other. So we've done north, central, and south. Next one. The north zone, we propose that for year 1, and there's about 24,000 linear feet. There's a 2019 to 2023 is about when this sewer was put in, and you see a little circle in the bottom left-hand corner. Tommy has identified that area as possible I&I just from what he's seen throughout the years and water coming into the system. So year 1, we would concentrate on the north and concentrate on the area that he believes water's coming through, so we know where it's coming, how it's coming, and what we need to do to eliminate the clean water from getting in our system. Center section, again, same thing, roughly 22,000 feet of pipe. It looks like 1990 something to 2020, it was installed. Yeah, sorry, my eyes aren't. 2020, thank you very much. Again, there's another area in a square. It's kind of in the upper left-hand corner that over the Ida, we've seen additional flows come in this area. We have no idea what it is, but in this section, that's the area that we want to concentrate in. And for the year 3, the southern section, again, 97 to 2000. At this point in time, it's 1,800 linear feet. We know there's a couple developments out there that are going to add to it eventually, though it's new, so we would ignore it in this, at least the first couple rounds. But we go through and do the same thing because Delphi Pump Station is also affected by I&I. So next one. Repair lists. We have a consolidated list of deficiencies, anything we find. Some will be simple, some will be more complex. We prioritize the repairs. The repairs can be prioritized by the amount of money needed to repair them, or there's a lot of flow coming in and we just have to bite the bullet and get it out, which helps us in the long run. This also allows for tracking deficiencies and repair of the deficiencies. This aids in infrastructure asset management. And I believe Carol's already started with something about that with assets for the township. So this would help that as well. Next one. This is a simple graphic. Basically what I want to show you here is right now on the left side, the water, that's all the I&I coming into your system. The lower brown part is the raw wastewater. That's the stuff that we want in the system. As we maintain and go through our I&I system, we reduce, I'm going to say half, the water coming in the system. We maintain the same sewer rate because we have the same number of subscribers or residents. What that does is as we can grow or more flow comes to us, less water is coming to us, so we have less treatment. And what comes in needs the treatment. So again, pumps don't work as hard. Electricity, we don't use as much electricity, and basically chemical, because it's more concentrated, so we can do it faster in better batches and more efficiently. Next one. Now I open up, hopefully it was simple enough that there's no questions, but any questions for anybody? You got this? And then one thing I do want to highlight is this is a dynamic system, just because I broke it down into 3 areas in 3 years. First time, we may not find anything, so we may not, find any leaks in phase 1. So we may have more money, we can start doing phase 2 in year 1. We may find a lot of leaks, and we may end up doing half of phase 1 in year 1 and start repairing the leaks. So it is a morph, but that gives you a layout of what we are intending. And the whole idea is to eventually reduce the amount of unwanted water coming down the system, so we only treat the wastewater.
So Bob, looking at, just for the public's sake, I've looked at, the Chapter 94 reports. When we have a big rain event, the daily flow during that rain event could be several times what it is on a normal day when the sun is out.
Absolutely.
So we know there are issues,
Yes.
right? Just so you know, it's not like we're.
It's been reported that our plant, I'm going to say 135,000 gallons, 139,000 gallons is a standard. I'm going to call it a dry day or a normal day. We've gone up into the 300,000s with bad storms. Delphi Pump Station has 20,000 additional gallons on a bad storm as well. So that is what we're trying to eliminate. That's what we need to find, where this water is coming from and keep it out of our system.
In the past, you've identified some issues with smoke testing. Was that what is the best
Well,
solution before this?
Yes, the smoke testing was a couple years ago, and that was depicted on the center, the little circle in the center.
Yeah.
That's where they are. Though some of the smoke testing has been repaired. We've done the lateral caps and everything else. Township's done, some private is done. But it's an ongoing thing. But yes, that's historical knowledge, smoke testing. That's all been taken care of. And if you have any specific areas that you feel to come in, I'm willing to listen because it's all dynamic.
No, thank you for the presentation. That was, I like the zones that you have and doing zone 3 after some developments are built, I guess. But the areas that are suspect currently, I'm just curious if it makes sense to hit those 3 areas or so first.
We can. As I said,
Just
it's
an
a
idea.
dynamic system.
Yeah.
We figured our thought pattern was the north section is the older section. Well, not necessarily the oldest, but the older section. Chances are we're going to find more problems in the older sections than we are the newer sections because you're lucky that most of your sewers are PVC, which is relatively right now the best, except for HDPE you can get. But yeah, that the whole idea is to get into those areas and hopefully we find a better system and we can move off and go to the other ones. So it's dynamic. We don't have to follow this pattern. But the whole idea is to keep chipping it away year after year after year. And eventually we'll be able to get through here and hopefully it's minimal.
Okay, thank you.
Hi.
Hey.
So we go through we go through the process, we go through all the zones, everything gets fixed, however long that takes, everything gets squared away. Does this continue to go on is this a
It's
continuous
an
thing?
annual system. Yes,
There's
it
no
just
break,
continues.
or it's just,
If we're not finding any leaks, we don't have to spend the money.
okay.
It's in the budget right now, it's annual, so we could turn around and do as much as we need to do.
So it's budgeted for 32K and some change. Is that, sound like that's going to cover every single year?
So the thought was, before we did the budget last year, is try to get 6,000 feet a year. But that's where assessing what damage we see because the contractors who we're contracting with will have the ability to fix, from what I understand from Bob.
Yes.
So that's part of the assessment part. So there may be some years where we get 2,000 feet because we don't, because there's major repairs to do, but that's kind of the assessment part while they're doing the videoing and giving us the baseline of, what the lines look like.
So just so I'm clear, the 32 just covers the inspection portion, not repairs?
No, actually, we can use it either for inspection or the repair. The contractor that we'd get to come in here does both. So he would go through, he would TV it. Obviously, they would give me their recommendations. Then it would be me to talk with Jason and see what we want to prioritize to do.
So is this a contractor that you're suggesting, or
They're CoStars. CoStars, you can
CoStars,
go right
okay.
on CoStars, and there's multiple
here.
I&I contractors.
okay.
I'll get the stuff ready so you can get what you want, but you definitely need somebody that will also do the repair. Different repairs are grouting. I know everybody has their love or hate for grouting. SIP, which is cured in place pipe, when you have a bad pipe, they go in, they actually form a new pipe within the old pipe and cover the deficit. There's other types of more advanced repairs. They can shoot up into the lateral from the main line. Last time I heard it was 25 feet, and they can grout back into our lateral. Our laterals are usually 20 feet long. But there's different things they can do without the traditional dig up or replacement. And that's where assessing comes, because if the pipe is not there, it may be cheaper to dig it up than put spot repair after sip after sip after sip. So,
Has anybody done the homework or the math on how much in savings for the sewer treatment plant this would actually equate to?
it's really hard to put a number to the actual improvement because it depends on how much water you get out. So if we get a couple big repairs, which usually get a big price tag to repair, we'll get more water out. So once you start this system, you will start to see your peaks, instead of going from 130 to 330, might only go to 300,000, might go to 310. We don't know. It all depends on what we find. So it's dynamic. I mean, we can quantify how much water we take out of it, but it's all got to come into the system with the meters that we have.
Okay, so it's safe to say the money that we'll be spending to do the management of the system would eventually work out.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, what you put into the collection system to keep the water out, you're going to see down the road with your pumps aren't going to work as hard, so they're going to last longer. Your electric bill, because they're not going to be running as long because you're not processing as much water. Everything should eventually even out. You're investing back in your system.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. It was very good.
And if any other questions, please.
Not a question, but I know that SBA Shrinksville Borough Authority, which manages water and some of the sewer in our township, they've had a very active I&I program for, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years, and they are starting to see a lot of savings,
I
a
agree.
lot.
And I know their system
They have older
is-
pipes, but even so.
I was going to say their system is mostly clay, vitrified clay, which is known to be the worst type of pipe you want. Well, Orangeburg is, but VCP. So yes, it is proven by other townships that it's something you should start, and you should just continue with it because the savings will eventually catch up to you.
So, I mean, the 32,000 or whatever it is, I know you said it can be used for repairs, but for that amount of money, it's probably going to be limited in terms of what you can do. If it's a big problem, then that's going to require more money, I would assume, right?
It depends. It
Yeah.
depends on what we find. And that's where, being a dynamic system, we know how much money we have this year. We go in and we TV, and maybe we find a big problem. We can say, hey, I got enough money here now to get rid of this. Instead of TVing more, let's get that out of our system. Or say, you know what, now we know it's here, we've got to wait around for a grant or try to aggressively get the money to repair it.
Okay.
But that's the beauty of an annual system. You have the ability to make the decision.
But part of this whole program too is going to involve some ordinance work, right? About inspection of laterals, time of sale.
Ideally,
I assume now, like I know people not in this township who they've got the old pipe and the tree roots have gotten into it, and they have to call Roto-Rooter every couple of years because their laundry sink doesn't run in the whole house. But if he goes to change that lateral, he's got to then he happens to live down the main line, he has to contact the township and get all the permits and stuff. I assume that's the way it works here.
to connect to our system, we would definitely need a plumbing permit and everything else.
To
because
repair a connection, I guess is really.
Now,
yeah.
the plumber's part of it, their actual lateral, we have what they want to use. You have your code enforcement. They have control from the right-of-way back to the house,
Right.
which is where the statement from the EPA realizing that half your pipelines are private owners. So we can't do any repairs on that end of it. What we end up with is when we bring our mainline camera through, if they see water coming in, more than a flush toilet, a laundry, they'll usually sit and watch it. And they've done this. You can sit there and you can tell whether somebody's draining a bathtub or, it's raining outside and I've got downspouts coming into it. Then that gets a priority list. This house, suspected sump pump. But we can't do anything until we can get into that. And that's where the lawyer and the ordinances and everything would go.
So like a few years ago, I remember having a discussion where, maybe there were some broken cleanouts on Main Street. And meaning that if the water got high enough, those cleanouts could be underwater for a period of time. And if you calculate, I don't know, what is that, a 5-inch ID or a 6-inch ID?
Usually 4-inch stacks or 6-inch stacks.
So
It's a lot of water.
Calculate the amount of water that can flow through this 4-inch pipe while it's submerged. It's many gallons, thousands of gallons of water. But right now, we don't have a mechanism to tell that property owner they need to have that repaired, or?
We've told them, the smoke testing had identified broken cleanouts and everything else, which is one of the simplest things for homeowners to do. But they can choose not to because.
Right, but I mean,
we push them to do it and they haven't been
but it
expensive.
sounds to me like we should have something in place that we force them to do it, because this is a hardship on the whole system.
Yes.
This is not a property owner's rights thing. This is like they're tied into a community system and they're expected to keep that connection in good working order.
And I believe your section 123 says something similar.
Right.
So, but yes, that's where a lot of I&I does come from private laterals.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Nope. Anything from the public? Okay, so we have a proposed motion to, we just need to approve, we already have this in the budget, so what do we need?
There's no motion yet because we have to present the contractor. We've got to give you guys
Okay.
the
Gotcha.
quotes. That's why there's no motion tonight.
So the next step would be then to provide potential contractor to do this work?
Yes.
Okay. That'll be through CoStars. All right. Thank you. Just, I mean, this is a little on topic, a little off topic, but I know there are places in the township where, for example, as you say, downspouts or some pumps, or just people have a lot of water on their yard and they're directing it into the street, and we're getting more stormwater that way. Is that something we should look at?
Well, no, stormwater, that's Carol's department. But,
Okay.
please step in. I mean, they can put it into the street, I believe. I don't know. But as long as it doesn't get into our pipes. Years ago, I ran into a clean out stack where the guy actually dished his front yard to the clean out stack, went to Home Depot and bought a green lawn 6-inch drain and dished his entire yard to the sewer pipe. So whenever we got rain, we got a 4-inch pipe flowing full of rain right out of his entire front yard. So people are very creative. But stormwater is keep it in the stormwater realm. We don't want to see it in the sewer.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, next item, Zieglerville Road Base Repair Project bid rejection. So at our last meeting, we did not accept the bids to do the base repair to Zieglerville Road, but we need to officially reject all of the bids from the contractors who bid on that project. Is that correct?
It's just
Okay.
cleaner, yes.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Would someone like to make that motion?
I'll move to reject the bids from Saxon Sons, H&K Group, Inc., and T. Schieffer Contractors, Inc. from the Zieglerville Road pavement-based repair project.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
So we had. Thank you. All right, so Supervisor Halter made the motion and Supervisor Byrd made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I'm opposed.
Thank you. So we have 3 in favor, 1 opposed. Motion passes. What would happen if this didn't pass?
Well, under state law, we are obligated to award the bid within 60 days. Point, if it's not awarded within 60 days, the contractor can just walk away and say, I'm not.
So it's assumed to have been rejected.
Yeah, it would be
Okay.
assumed, but this is just cleaner because it's not like after 60 days, the bid becomes void. It kind of falls into the contractor whether or not they want to accept it. So it's just better just to cut it off.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. All right, next item is authorizing for advertising bid for the Springmount Road sidewalk project. And for everybody, this is to have a sidewalk connecting the township building to the firehouse. We got Monco 2040 grant money to do this and also to repair the culvert. And what we're looking for is a motion to authorize advertising the bid documents. Any discussion from the board?
No other than to just, this is $200,000 from the grant and approximately $111,000 from the ARPA money that we have. So we would need to, obviously, to satisfy the ARPA requirement, have the contract in place before the end of the year. But we also need to get this done by when? End of June next year, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct. That's a grant condition that it be done by June 30th of 2025.
All right, then do I have a motion to authorize advertising the bid documents?
I move to authorize the township engineer to advertise the bid documents for the Springmount Road sidewalk project.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Chuck Yeiser will second.
We have Supervisor Halter made the motion, Supervisor Yeiser made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. The next item is the authorization for agreement of sale for the Lieben property. And just, again, by way of background, and I guess I should recuse myself from this one. Do I have to recuse myself since I'm a member of the Montgomery County Farm Preservation Board? No, I do not. Okay. So the Montgomery County Farm Preservation Board voted last year to, sir, if you'd like to have a conversation, you're welcome to take it outside, you two in the back. You're welcome to go in the lobby if you need to have a conversation. Thank you. The Montgomery County Farm Preservation Board voted to permanently preserve this farm, and they asked Lower Frederick, as they ask all municipalities where they're preserving farms, if they're willing to contribute up to 15% of the easement price towards the preservation. And I believe the township voted to approve $30,000 towards the preservation, which I believe was, what was the percentage, about 10%? Or was that 15?
12 and a half.
12.5%, okay, which is 12.5%. So what we need to do is, since we are now on the sale of agreement, we just need to authorize, actually, I need to sign the sale of agreement on behalf of the Board of Supervisors. So we will then be a party to this purchase because we are donating some money towards it. So that's what this is about. Any discussion from the board? Okay, so do I have a motion?
Sure. I move to authorize the chair to sign the sale of agreement on behalf of the Board of Supervisors for the farmland property located at 8 Sepp Road being preserved through the Montgomery County Agricultural Land Preservation Program.
I'll second.
Thank you. So Supervisor Byrd made the motion, Supervisor Halter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. That brings us to a discussion of some changes to Township Code about open burning.
Okay, so this topic has come up a lot during my short time here, and honestly, everywhere I've been, open burning's been some type of topic as far as what you can do, when you can do it. I posed several questions for the board to consider when looking at what our code, what's in our code. So for instance, should the chief of police stay as air pollution controller? If so, who is enforcing on the weekends when the chief is not present? Should Lower Frederick Fire be included in the discussion, or the Lower Frederick Fire Marshal? What days of the week can residents burn? Is it restricted to certain days, times, weekends? Our current permit states you may only burn on Saturdays and Sundays. Our code does not state this. Do residents need a burn permit if they're burning within a burn barrel? Are burn barrel dimensions needed, or burn permits only needed for open burns? The current controlled burn area is 5 by 5, and fires are to be a minimum of 50 feet from all buildings and 25 feet from property lines. Should this continue? Do residents need a burn permit if having a campfire, using a covered or uncovered bonfire pit, outdoor stove, oven? Should the township be allowing burning of domestic refuse? And should there be something regarding what residents can do when a burn ban is put into effect by the fire marshal, and exceptions? I can speak to that one. When I talked to a reporter who did an article on this, our code kind of is ambiguous to saying you can only, there's exceptions to open burning. We don't mention anything with the burn ban, so it's kind of, it's tough to say whether you can't follow, if you're following the exceptions, if that, even during a ban, whether or not you're legally burning, allowed to burn or not per our ordinance. So I think part of this is cleaning up some stuff while also being very more clear so that we don't have ambiguous code with this. So that's kind of, that's how this ended up as kind of number 2 on the importance. And we do get a lot of calls regularly with burning and stuff, and as the burn ban, and we've kind of, we got a couple of days of rain, so that's part of the, are we still in a burn ban? It kind of goes municipality to municipality. So I think having something, or potentially having something that, if there's a burn ban in effect, no burning, or is a gas stove okay? Like that's kind of where would be my recommendation, or as far as kind of clarifying, what people can and can't do regarding open burning. I know domestic refuse has been taken out of I believe a lot of burning ordinances. I think Chief can probably speak to a couple situations that they've gone out to with fires that were a little more out of control. So that's kind of what you're looking at is, or I guess first is if the board's interested, this is another thing, if the board's interested in updating or amending this, our open burning code.
Do I take it to mean by domestic refuse, we're talking everything you would normally put in your trash and have picked up, people are burning it? Is
Yes.
Just speaking for myself, I think that should not be allowed.
We've had it a couple times where we've been called and people are burning everything.
We're talking plastic bottles and,
They were burning the innards of a washer and dryer.
Yeah, I think people like like mattresses on fire.
And just, and for the first point that Jason brought up, right now, how the system is when I'm not here, the fire marshal, if they're out, he sends me all the documentation, and then I can go ahead and execute an arrest if it's a violation. But speaking with the fire marshal, speaking with Jason, as Jason said, it's very ambiguous with burn ban, but I know other places and even other agencies where they have certain things, like no burning, but cooking is allowed. Like I know some people cook on like the chimney, or they'll have a little fire pit, and then they put the grate over, because, so I think that's the biggest
It's a
part.
contained fire.
Some of them are, some of them aren't. But for the most people that are in compliance when when we're not having a burn ban, they have the walls, they have it stone bottom, it's controlled. But but then we have the other end of the spectrum where they're burning everything under the sun.
And I can say I did, Chris Melville, as we know, is part of the fire company. He sent me an email, and while, kind of looking at our code, and what he wrote in this, one point of clarification that would help is a section on what is allowed, as we stated. The ordinance outlined what is not allowed and has led to some ambiguity and difficulty interpreting in the field. He did provide us with he linked the borough's, Schwenksville's ordinance, as far as what can be burned in open burning. His opinion, in short, limiting open burning in natural dried vegetation, branches, debris, and small diameter logs and/or seasoned firewood would help.
Who sent you that?
Chris Melville.
This is just a discussion tonight, correct?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, before the meeting, just for your knowledge to the rest of the board, Chris had sent an email because I think he sat down with the officers from the fire company because they knew it was on the agenda. Tom Gammon wasn't able to be at that meeting, but they went through it was a very few points on it, and he mentioned that Schwenksville has recreational burning as a definition, so that helps with a lot of the fire pits and the solo stoves, and then it doesn't have to apply to a 5x5 pile. So there is some interactive that he also shared, Jason, in that message. And one of the recommendations, since we just got done talking about it, is that the burning of trash should be prohibited. So that was one of it was a pretty simple comment that they provided.
Does he have all the credentials to be a fire marshal? At Schwenksville? Talking about Chris?
I don't know.
I don't know that he's acting or stating as a fire marshal.
He is the fire marshal down there in Schwenksville, isn't he?
I'm not sure.
Did you say he sent Schwenksville's code?
Yes.
Will you make sure we get that? Okay.
Yeah, I think if we get recommendations from the fire company, that's good input into this conversation. And also, we should be consistent with Schwenksville, since our fire company serves both communities, and I am absolutely in favor of banning burning of domestic refuse.
I would also suggest to have our police department weigh in on that as well.
And the fire marshal for here.
Yes. Yeah, I did talk to our fire marshal, and he is getting me from his other fire marshals their code and how they use it. So I did talk to Tom on this topic, and I'm waiting for that information from him.
Yeah, so what's a little confusing, and when I was reading our code now, is it says open burning is prohibited in Lower Frederick Township except as hereinafter provided. And then they list the exceptions. And one of the exceptions is burning for the purpose of destroying domestic refuse. So they're, you know? But then I think somewhere else they're talking about like burning plastics is no good. So it just seems like there's some disjointed stuff in here that
Well,
really needs to be looked
un-
at.
under the state regs, we cannot go more lenient than the DEP regulations, but we can go stricter. DEP regulations in municipalities that have recycling or are required to do recycling under state law or have state grants to do recycling. In those communities, you cannot be burning any domestic refuse that's supposed to be recycled. So plastic, that sort of thing. In communities that don't have recycling, yes, you can burn that. But then we can ban domestic burning if that's what we wish to do.
Yeah, so here, okay, I found what I was looking for, because there's a whole section here on outdoor burning of domestic refuse. They're basically saying has to be in an approved burn barrel. But then later on, in a different thing, it says, no burning of plastic, rubber, garbage, diapers, or animal waste shall be permitted. So what is domestic refuse? But, okay. So yeah, there's work to be done.
And say when the reporter asked me, he was asking my opinion on what can and can't be done, I wasn't able to give him an answer because, you know, it is the way the code kind of reads it, so I kind of got called to task on it, and it made me a little nervous, and he, you know, because it's not clear enough.
So it sounds like what I'm hearing is we are in agreement that our current code needs some cleaning up, and we're also receptive to receiving Schwenksville's ordinance and input from our fire marshals. Is that, if I summed that up correctly? Okay, and then when we get that, then we can revisit this at a future meeting.
Yes,
Yeah, I would suggest when we get through this, that when we have a burn ban, it should be crystal clear, and that we develop a sheet for residents, bulleted sheet, what we consider acceptable, like, you know, running my backyard grill to make steaks, as opposed to what's not acceptable. Yeah, just make it very, you know, easy to consume and something you can throw up on the website or whenever these things go into effect.
I know that's my goal, for sure, based on the questions we've had and the situations that we know have come up over the years.
Any comments from the public on this? And again, we'll have more information at a future meeting. Okay. That brings us to discussion of single access road ordinance. We have a proposed ordinance update from the Planning Commission. I have a question. So if we approve this tonight, we're going to, at the same time, send it to the other planning commissions. Shouldn't we get their comments back before we advertise, to avoid advertising twice?
Well, in this case, we certainly can do that. Obviously, this ordinance was prepared and written by our planning commission.
Right.
Based on recommendations by our planner who works for the Montgomery County Planning Commission. And we didn't make any changes whatsoever to what they sent to us. We just turned it into.
So we're confident that this will sail right through?
Yeah, this,
Okay.
you know, unless they found a mistake that they've made that they don't like, it's exactly the same thing. It's just in a form that's appropriate for adoption.
Okay. Any discussion from the board? I know we talked about this at the last meeting, or the last, I think, work session.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with moving it forward, and then I assume if it's not there already, this ordinance will also be put on our website as things, so the public doesn't have to find it in the newspaper or wherever, right? We'll have it listed, of things that we're
Yes.
working on. Yeah, okay.
We're legally required to put it in the newspaper,
Yeah, I
but that doesn't prohibit us from putting it on our website.
We have been doing that just so people can find it easier, so, yeah.
Are we ready to make a motion on that?
Chuck Yeiser will make the motion that we move to authorize the township solicitor to send the single access road ordinance amendment to the township and county planning commissions, and further authorize the advertisement of this ordinance to be adopted at a future meeting.
Thank you. I will second. So Supervisor Yiser made the motion, Supervisor Hexter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
That brings us to the main feature of our meeting, just kidding, the mid-year fiscal year budget review.
Okay, so this is the 2024 fiscal year mid-year review. I did this a little differently. I did a summary of all funds. The township, so far, the township has outperformed its revenue budget by $109,282. And we have outperformed, or we're under budget, by $75,891. Revenue summary, total $2.798 million received. Said 109,282, or 4.1% over budget. Expense summary, $2.527 million. $75,891, or 2.9% under budget. All funds income balances, and this includes the CDs, $5.282 million, with a net income of $271,271, and that is a correct number, not a typo. Oh, let's work back. The fund balance breakdown. So our general operating funds, so between the general and the sewer fund, we've received, the fund balance is $3.05 million. So far through the middle of the year, we've had a net income of $413,124. Our special revenue funds, which would be the liquid fuels, ARPA COVID relief, that fund balance is $774,769. That net income is negative $137,308. Our capital project funds, which would be open space, sewer capital, and capital reserve, that fund balance is $496,522, with a net income of negative $4,545. And then our fiduciary funds, which are the general fund developer and our sewer fund on-site sewer escrows, are $951,000. Oops. Summary of the general fund. It's outperformed its revenue budget by $38,872. And we're under budget by $92,386. Total revenue to date are $1.609 million, which is 2.5% over budget. Revenue, Jesus. I did go through this, but so our highs, real estate tax, earned income tax, franchise fees, interest from banking CDs, state police and magistrate fines. Our lows, we're below budget in real estate transfer and charges for service. And the special assessment fire hydrant, which this was basically we lowered the fire hydrant rate, and I missed lowering what we were supposed to receive this year, so, when we did the budget. This is the percent breakdown. Per usual, the bulk of our revenue for the general fund comes from EIT at 36.2%, and our real estate taxes, which is at 51.6%. Then you can see the other breakdowns. Expense summary, total $1.382 million, $92,386, or 6.3% under budget. Expense highlights, we're over for insurance, property and liability, admin office technology, engineering services, repair and maintenance of the building, the police data system, building code, zoning consultant, planning, zoning, code enforcement, other services, and park development. We're under in labor admin, legal solicitor, labor police, repair and maintenance, police vehicle, labor for public works, and public works snow and ice removal. Here's the expense breakdown of the departments. Labor and O&M, obviously, between the admin, police, and public works takes up the bulk of our expenses. Just working backwards. The fund balance for the general fund, which includes the CDs, is $2.457 million with a net income of $226,944. Speaking of CDs, you want me to do that? So currently, we did have one of our CDs mature. Right now, we also have 2 CDs that are at very low rates that mature in 2026 and 2029. So I am working at taking those out early and investing them, going from a $0.65 million, or I'm sorry, 2.85% rate to between 4.5% and 5%, and a rate for the CD through 2029, if it's at 1.02%, and that would be roughly the same rate. We also have a Victory Bank that's at 1.2% that we're looking at taking out early and being able to maximize those dollars, and then reinvesting what matured in May back into a 1-year, 2-year, or 3-year CD. The sewer fund summary. Their sewer fund outperformed its revenue budget by $41,498. Sewer fund outperformed its expense budget by $289, or it's under budget by $289. Revenue summary. Total $725,780, or $41,498 over budget, or 6.1%. The revenue highlights: high sewer rental sewer use charge, interest from banking, the FEMA reimbursement. Actually, that's a typo. I apologize. Those reimbursements are typos. Lows, we continue to have no lows in sewer fund. This is the breakdown, revenue percent wise. We do have the sewer tap-in fees is a higher percent than normal because we have been receiving the Fulmer Road tap-in fees. Normally, the bulk of this percent is the sewer rental, sewer use charge percent, or sewer as far as the revenue. Expense summary. Total $539,600. $288 under budget, or 0.1%. Expense highlights: we're over supplies, chemicals, sledge hauling, insurance bonding, the former Riverside Extension, and sewer capital improvement. We're under repair and maintenance on all our utilities, and then the sewer line televised clean repair, just because I had that starting in June. This is the expense breakdown. As the board's aware, and this, the debt services takes up half the percent, or half the expense budget, and then you've got the labor and the O&M. The fund balance for the sewer fund, $579,164, with an income of $186,180. Some projects, the 2024 project capital highlights between the admin, township property, and sewer. Admin, we did our codification update with the 2022 and 2023 ordinances. We did Office 365 upgrade and server migration to the cloud, and the treasurer got a new computer. As far as the township building, the police department renovation was started towards the end of June. And sewer, the Fulmer Riverside Road sewer extension project was completed. We've received 34 sewer connections in the first half of the year, and the sewer plant flood barrier project was started. The project's capital for the police, public works, and roads. Police hiring of Officer Narc. The receipt of the 2023 Ford Interceptor SUV and the 2023 F-150 police responder. Public Works, they got a new computer, and they received their 2023 F-350 truck and plow at the beginning of the year. And then road, the Meadow Lane and Alexander Drive culverts replacements. We did do our 2024 oil and chip project, which was 4.94 miles of road. And then the stormwater project, the Zieglerville Road swale and inlet project. Open space and community development. Open space, the Barber property, which was a Highlands Conservation Grant, that's been started. That'll run throughout the year. We're hopeful that'll be completed by November, December of this year, potentially. As far as the community, Spring Mount Sidewalk project has been started. And Park and Recreation, the Copel Park Phase 1 Stormwater Project Greenways, Trails, and Recreation Grant was submitted in May. The fund balances for the capital reserve, liquid fuels, and sewer capital. Capital reserve fund balance is at $94,412 with a net income of negative $9,082. Liquid fuels fund balance is $473,897 with a net income of negative $59,805. And the sewer capital has a fund balance of $83,911 with a net income of negative $51,557. Our remaining fund balances, you have the open space at $248,099, which that's taking out the open space allocation of $70,100, which would be for actually, that should be $100,000 because I didn't include the Liban and the Barber property. Yeah, I apologize. So take 30,000. So we would take 30,000 off the open space number. Yes. The hydrant fund is $22,433. Our developer escrow fund is at $903,008. The ARPA COVID Relief Fund available balance, we'll say, is $92,814. We've had $208,058 allocated. And the on-site sewer escrow is at $48,055. the 2024 conclusions so far. The township has achieved a significant portion of its annual revenue goals, which is primarily driven by property taxes and earned income tax. We've received 66% of our general fund revenue, 59.4% of our sewer fund revenue, and 108.3% of our liquid fuels revenue. As far as expenditures, they're on track within budget with some variances in specific departments. We have been focusing on trying to control costs while maintaining the services. We've spent 48% of the general fund expense budget, 40% of the sewer fund, and 61.3% of the liquid fuels fund. Key areas of focus is our continued investment in infrastructure, including road repairs and maintenance of public facilities. While some projects have had delays, we're expected to catch up in the second half of this year. Current economic conditions with inflation and rising costs continue to pose challenges as far as our budget management. And as always, we're trying to seek alternative funding and sources and grants when available. As far as our outlook currently, mid-year, I believe I'm very optimistic in meeting our financial goals. And obviously, we will continue monitoring and adjusting with any emerging financial challenges as they come at us. Any questions?
I have a question about the property transfer amount. You said it was lower than usual. How much lower?
The real estate transfer, we are under budget by 16,000 roughly.
And do you think it's fair to attribute that to the fact that even though people are getting a lot of money for their homes, where are they going to go?
I think it's a combination. I think interest rates have risen. It seems to be some houses are on the market a little bit longer. I don't see that we have a lot of inventory available. Many times we don't know when something's for sale until we get a call, and we haven't been really getting a lot of those calls. So I do think it's a combination of some things. But
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
So you had 3 vehicles, 2 police and 1 public works.
yes,
If memory serves me, I think at least one of those we were hoping would have come in last year, right?
we were, yes.
So that is something that, we pointed out last year when everybody said, oh, you're running a surplus, but we knew that, we had a commitment to buy the vehicle. It just was not available for us to get it. We were waiting for it, and that we were going to take it on the 2024 budget.
Which we didn't actually for the one vehicle because we were anticipating receiving it up until the end of the year. The one vehicle wasn't in this year's budget.
Right. But I do remember people pointing out that we had a surplus, and there was a reason for that because we anticipated buying that vehicle last year.
Yes.
I have another question if nobody else has any. So you also had a category for fiduciary funds. That's other people's money, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I thought I would throw some new lingo to,
Okay.
but we really don't address the escrows, and they are certain. when looking at all the funds, that being that we've got nearly over 900,000 of other people's money, that goes into our fund balances, and it does go into our audits.
Yeah, it just seemed like last year we were getting comments where people might have been confused about that, thinking that that was our money. And it's
Yeah, that's
not.
one of the reasons I thought doing this year, I would kind of split special revenue. Our operating funds are sewer, and so kind of create those buckets so that it's better, it's easier to understand where we can spend at the board's leisure, so to speak, with the sewer and general fund, and then where we can't, we've got more restricted funds with the special revenues, And then obviously the fiduciary funds, which is almost a fifth of our fund balance.
Last quick comment. So you're just gonna, you'll put a corrected version of this presentation on the website?
Yeah, I got a few things to clean up for sure.
That's okay. Just a comment, and to answer one of Marlo's questions, the realty transfer tax, again, the budget this year was about 175,000. Last year's budget was 125, so if we just kept that number flat, we'd be right where we, a little bit better than that. So because last year's actual ended up around that 175, we made it the budget number. So it didn't slow down, actually picked up a little bit year over year, just not to the budget. Yeah.
Thank you, Terry.
Any other questions? Nope. Anything from the public? Go ahead, Sherry. So I'm sorry, can you come to the microphone? Because the people on Zoom cannot hear you unless you're in the microphone.
We do have a mic to pass around if you want. Yeah,
Just make sure that the green light is on.
Sherry Schweikert,
Oh,
Schwank
no,
Road.
sorry, you have to speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Sherry Schweikert, Schwank Road. So I wanted to add another lingo because I wanted to get clarification from you, Jason. When I think about financials, I think about two different types. There's those things that happen every month, and we expect the income or the revenue to be 1/12 every month. And then there's other things that are more cyclical. Maybe some of the transfers that we're talking about, maybe people move more in the summer than they might move while their kids are in school. So when you're talking about over and under in your budget, are you always taking it to exactly half of the projected expense for the year? Or have you,
no.
you have another calculation somewhere?
I do a worksheet taking the 5 previous years and which does an average percent each month. And then when I plug in the current, the budgeted number for this year, that's where those calculations are coming from.
Thank you. Thanks for that clarification.
Thank you, I learned something new. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, you know what? If you guys want to pass that mic around. Becky. Sorry.
If this works, Dan Orff, Kratz Road. Just a real quick question for clarification. So when you were talking about fiduciary money, obviously, are you referring to all the escrow funds we're holding on behalf of, as a result of developments and so forth that are going on, right?
We've got 2 buckets. We've got the developer escrows, and then under the sewer fund, we have the on-site escrows.
I mean, really good for certain members of the community to see that spelled out, because there has been, I think Chuck was alluding to this, there has been confusion on parts. Certain people think that's actual, part of our money, although it is money that the township holds. It's money that is not ours to do anything with unless there's special circumstances, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
We can't touch the escrow money unless,
It's paying for
Yeah.
people to develop,
Yeah.
essentially.
yeah, and we hold it in case they don't live up to their obligations. And
Yes.
and therefore, but we don't touch it typically, but it sits on our books. It makes us look like we have more funds than we actually do. So if
Yes.
there's any way we can highlight that a little bit better, because I think there are certain people who get confused by that. That's just a suggestion. I don't know if anybody else has the same issue. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Bob.
Bob Burns, Zieglerville Road. I'd like to ask the board if they would take into consideration, since we have our equipment bid contractor that put his bid in earlier in the year, there's been a lot of talk about Springmount Road, Main Street, and obviously some areas on Zieglerville Road, that if we can go ahead and try to get something at maybe another next meeting coming up so that some of these areas can be fixed. That might help part of the problem with the ARPA money. It'll help get the work done. It'll get done maybe a little quicker. I noticed that a couple of the roads that Jason talked about, I think it was Meadow and Alexander, I don't think they're patch paving was done, so maybe that's something that could be done by the equipment contractor, and then, here again, the ARPA monies can go ahead and take care of that. So the longer we wait to do any of these things, the worse off those conditions are gonna be, and then for those people that drive through those conditions all the time, possible damage to their vehicles. So by putting it forth to you guys now, it's basically saying. What's that? Are you worried about that now? I've been worried about it all along. You have something to say? Say it, Chuck. Yeah. Go ahead, say it.
You thought of everything under the sun not to do this Eagleville Road, and now you're throwing it back to your concern that it's in bad shape.
No, that you didn't listen to what I said. I said you have 3 different roads that need emergency repairs, okay? Those emergency repairs can be done with.
Let's wait until after hurricane season.
Yeah. Why don't we just wait until you move to Maine in 2 years, okay? And then we don't have to listen to you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the public?
By the way, we do have a request in for Spring Mount and Main Street. We're waiting for those votes to come back, so the board's aware. I think that chat's old.
Okay, any other questions from the public? That looks like a no. That brings us to supervisor comment. Any supervisor comment? Pardon? We just did public comment. There's no more public comment.
I do.
Go for it.
Okay. A reminder on August 8th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. here at the Township Building, there will be a blood drive, the Travis Ryder blood drive. There's a QR code, so don't leave without scanning it. Sign up for an appointment. If you sign up, you have a chance to win 4 Penn State football tickets and parking, or 4 tickets to a Louis Fonzi concert. I'm sure he's great. It's in Allentown. So please sign up. Right now, we have pretty low sign-up rates. We'd really appreciate if we could fill those spots. Tell your friends. Thank you.
Any other supervisor comment?
Only to remind people we have a concert Thursday night. The name of the band is?
I got barefoot. Thank you.
The rain date is August 1st, correct? Okay.
And on that happy note, this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.